Chapter 64. Plotting for the country. It took 5 days and 5 nights of chasing before Li King was killed, stabbing the absolute life knife into the skin and turning it into ribs. Finding a small stream to clean his body and changing his clothes, Gu Hai then poked around. Running all this way, he didn't know where he had arrived. It was only after another day that Gu Hai found a city. This is the Great Golden Kingdom. It's in a secular world region with my Gu Fu, and this is in the southwest. Gu Hai frowned as he walked into the city. Gu Hai was the richest man in the 6 kingdoms back then, and this Great Gold Kingdom was one of the 6 kingdoms. Gu Hai quickly found his shop. Master, you've become younger. When I used to follow Master used to look like this. An old shopkeeper looked at Gu Hai and worshipped excitedly. Gu Hai looked at the old shopkeeper and sighed slightly. Don't worry, you'll become younger too. Yes, thank you Master. As long as I can follow Master, I am willing to do anything. It's just that Little has been in charge of the Great Golden Kingdom all these years, and it's been a long time since I've seen old Master, the old shopkeeper said happily. HMPH. By the way, Master, some time ago, there were so many immortals that came. They wanted to find Master's whereabouts, just like crazy. But now it's much better. It seems like they stopped looking for Master all of a sudden. However, recently, they seem to have rumored that they're going to the Dinglong sect. I don't know what they're going to do. The old shopkeeper opened his mouth. Oh, Dinglong sect. Gu Hai raised his eyebrows. Dinglong sect, one of the 5 major sects of the 9 and 5 islands in the past. But what was most fresh in Gu Hai's mind wasn't this, but that memory of Meng Tai's at the beginning, when he watched the memories of the imprisoned Meng Tai together with Ding Rui and Song Shengping. It was mentioned that it seemed like Long Wanqing's mother and Meng Tai had discovered the dragon vein in the Dinglong sect 20 years ago. Later, when Ding Rui hurriedly left from the Dafengang, she should have been heading to the Ding Dragon sect. Dinglong sect, Master. This great gold kingdom of ours seems to be attached to the Dinglong sect, the old shopkeeper reported. Dinglong sect, Dragon Vein, Ding Rui. Gu Hai frowned, slightly contemplating, his finger gently tapping on the table. The old shopkeeper on the side stood respectfully, waiting quietly. Taking a deep breath, Gu Hai said in a deep voice, since the cultivators from the 4 directions are heading towards the Dinglong sect, then I just happened to go and take a look as well. I'm not going back for now. Yes, the old shopkeeper nodded. Prepare pen, ink, paper and inkstones. I'm going to write letters to all the grand bosses of the 5 countries, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Yes, the old shopkeeper's face changed as he answered. All the big shopkeepers in the 5 countries. Gu Hai was the richest man in the 6 countries, and after the Great Song country was destroyed, there were still 5 countries left. And the grand bosses, each one of them was the biggest talker, in charge of the Gu Fu's matters in a country. It was just like the Gu Hon of yesteryear, who was in charge of the Great Song Kingdom. Although the old treasurer in front of me is highly respected and in charge of the Great Golden State, however, he is not yet the biggest treasurer of the Great Golden State. At the same time, to the 5 countries' big treasurer, naturally have huge matters to say. The old shopkeeper didn't dare to slack off and personally sharpen the ink for Gu Hai. Gu Hai contemplated for a while and began to write 1 letter at a time. You can read them, but remember to keep it a secret, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Yes, the old shopkeeper respectfully said. As Gu Hai wrote 1 letter, the old shopkeeper sharpened his ink while tilting his head to read one. Looking at the words on the letter, the old shopkeeper's eyelids fluttered furiously, followed by an excited facial flush. Master, you want to unify the world? The old shopkeeper felt a bit suffocated as he excitedly said. Gu Hai frowned and looked. The old shopkeeper immediately suppressed his excitement and took a few deep breaths. Yes, I saw nothing, didn't see anything. Do your work well. You will not only fight with me in the secular world, but you will also fight together in the cultivation world in the future. So what if you are immortals? In the future, immortals are just small officials for you and others to sit down. A wave of confidence flashed in Gu Hai's eyes and said, "Yes," the old shopkeeper answered. "These letters, according to my ancient mansion's messaging techniques, pass them on to all the major shopkeepers. Pass on my words, don't be afraid to spend money, as long as things get done. It's fine if the money runs out," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Yes," the old shopkeeper answered. "This letter, pass it on to my ancient mansion, and make sure to hand it over to Gu Qin. The matter is important. There must be no mistakes," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Yes, Master, don't worry. Grand Duke, this letter, I will let my eldest son personally escort it to the hands of the Grand Duke. If there is any mistake, bring your head to see," the old shopkeeper said with a solemn expression. Gu Hai nodded. After resting for a day in the Great Gold Country and purchasing a large amount of materials, Gu Hai set off on the road to Dinglong Sect. 8 days later, Tiger Dungeon Pass, Ancient Mansion. News from the Songjia sect had also come through. Gu Hai, alone, had massacred the entire Song Armor sect, and countless cultivators in the 4 directions were chilled to the bone when they heard it. One person, "Senior brother, you're joking, right?" "Who's joking with you?" "I was there. It was too ferocious." "Ancient Sea. Then what are we still staying here for? Still robbing the peaches?" Scram. The 4 directions of the ancient mansion were in an uproar. Countless cultivators were discussing the Battle of Songjiazong. Many cultivators, who hadn't seen the withered bones strewn across the land, drummed up the courage to head to Songjiazong to get a glimpse of what was going on, but as long as those who had come back from Songjiazong, no one wanted to go back. It was too horrifying. In the 28 heaven and earth vertical and horizontal grand formation, Gu Qin summoned the 4 major ministers and gathered in a hall. In front of them stood a middle-aged man. "Grand Duke, this is the letter that my father asked me to pass on. I left in a hurry." "The old master didn't say anything to me," the middle-aged man respectfully said. Gu Qin nodded and waved his hand to go down. Only Gao Xianzi, Chen Tronchen, Scar, and Shangwen Scar remained in the hall. 4 ministers, "This is a letter from my father to each of you, and of course, there's also this one from me. So you guys should read it first," Gu Qin said in a deep voice. With doubts, the 4 ministers took the letters, reading it carefully. After reading for a while, all of them raised their eyebrows. "Your Excellency, this is wanting to unite this secular world under one roof," Scar said doubtfully. "The 9 and 5 islands, the 5 great sects, now that the Dafengang, the King sect, and the Songjia sect have been removed from the list. It's true that there can be a major reshuffle, but," Chen Chonchen frowned. "But what?" Gu Qin looked at Chen Chonchen. "Even if we unify the 9 and 5 islands, so what? Where does it compare to the One Piece Hall?" Chen Chonchen said in disbelief. "Minister Chen should not question my father's thoughts. I don't think that my father may not have thought as much as Minister Chen," Gu Qin said in a deep voice. Chen Chonchen froze slightly and nodded. "What we need to do now is to carry out what my father said in his letter," Gu Qin said in a deep voice. The 4 major ministers nodded. "Minister Chen, as stated in my father's letter, the kingdom of Chen, leave it to you to persuade, and on the side of Chen Liangyi, my father promises Baron, which is hereditary, as soon as possible to complete the handover of the kingdom of Chen to my Gu family. You have no problem with that, right?" Gu Qin solemnly said. Chen Chonchen nodded and said, "Of course there's no problem. The Chen kingdom has less support from the King sect. Even if they don't defect to the ancient house today, they'll be convinced by other sects in the future. I'll go convince Chen Liangyi," Gu Qin nodded. "Minister Chen, your task is heavier. Besides convincing Chen Liangyi, your Earth Ministry is also responsible for recruiting cultivators from the 4 directions into my ancient mansion Gukin solemnly said. Recruiting the 4 directions cultivators. This. I know it's tough, but my father said that nowadays, the 9 and 5 islands have gathered a large number of scattered cultivators from the 1,000 island sea. You try for the time being. It's best if you can recruit. And if you can't, it doesn't matter, Gukin solemnly said. All right, Chen Chongchen nodded. Minister Gao, as stated in my father's letter, you are ordered to be the great general of the ancient mansion, to lead the 4 directions of troops and horses, and prepare to meet the 4 nations, Gukin solemnly said. Good, Gao Xianzi responded without hesitation. Don't worry, the 5 big countries, my ancient mansion penetrated very deeply. It's just that my father has always been unwilling to fight for supremacy. Now, with my father's order, the power of my ancient mansion is definitely more than you can imagine, and it shouldn't be difficult to pacify the 4 countries, Gukin laughed. Gao Xianzi nodded with a complex expression. How ignorant was the Great Song Kingdom in the beginning, to actually dare to collide with the ancient mansion. My father's letter explains that the main purpose of this unification of this area is to train troops. Lord Gao, this requires discovering some generals to the best of your ability, Gukin solemnly said. Good, Gao Xianzi nodded. My father started to reserve talents a long time ago, some of the shopkeepers in the 4 directions, as well as some of the talents we collected, will slowly hand over to the various parties in charge of the cities and towns. Minister Scar, my father has asked you to take charge of the security in these handovers and carefully protect these people, Gukin solemnly said. Don't worry about this, Scar nodded. Minister Shangwan, my father's explanation to you is to lead the Yellow Ministry and go to meet my father, Gukin solemnly said. We will depart immediately, Shangwan Trace nodded. Shangwan Minister, don't be in a hurry. I will immediately prepare the clearance paperwork for you and fly pigeons to send letters to the 4 directions, as long as the people of the ancient mansion industry will assist you with all their might, Gukin solemnly said. Good, Shangwan Trace nodded. A short meeting ended. 3,000 evil people, the ancient mansion industry. Everything was busy. Many of the old bosses of the ancient mansion were all human savants, from Gukin sending out one order after another. They steeply smelled a hint of an unusual flavor, as if they had guessed what was going on, and one by one, they were all agitated, and all the arrangements were made, and incomparably positively went about their business. 3 days later, Chen Wang Palace. In front of Chen Chongchen sat Chen Liangyi, great-grandfather. This is what Guhai meant. Chen Liangyi's eyes shifted for a while. Chen Liangyi, don't be a jerk at this time. Without the support of the ancient mansion, the destruction of the Chen kingdom is imminent. His Excellency has already promised to give you a hereditary baron in the future. Don't you know yourself? Chen Chongchen said in a deep voice. No, I'm not worried about that. This Chen kingdom, all of it was fought by Guhai. No, all of it was fought by His Excellency, and it was all about to be destroyed in the first place. Although I am a little reluctant, but I also understand the general trend. I understand, just I am worried that some people are unwilling. Chen Liangyi bitterly smiled. Oh, my Chen kingdom. There is also a group of deep-rooted nobles. I'm worried about them rebounding, Chen Liangyi explained. There's nothing to worry about. You're just responsible for the handover. Those rebounding nobles, my Earth Ministry has plenty of people to deal with them. Those who dare to cause trouble, kill, Chen Chongchen said, with a glare in his eyes. Yes, Chen Liangyi's eyes shifted for a while before he finally nodded his head. To Yi, don't think that the Baron is small. Perhaps this is also your creation, to be able to follow us and set foot in the cultivation world. Your path will no longer be a short 100 years of life, Chen Chongchen explained. Chen Liangyi's face changed and said, cultivators can also establish a country. Chen Chongchen let out a cold laugh and said, that's natural, in the divine land. There are countless cultivator kingdoms, and the strongest of them, the Celestial Dynasty, is more than you can imagine. The long live, there is the real long live, which is like you guys are just a slogan. Long live, an emperor of the heavenly dynasty can really live forever to 10,000 years, Chen Liangyi said with wide eyes. All right, don't talk about these impracticalities. Be a good boy and gather your most trusted people and start the handover, Chen Xiongchen said in a deep voice. Ah, yes, Chen Liangyi answered.